will show the case of China's healthcare reform. And this project is not an individual project, which is a combination effort with my friends and colleagues, Jing and Young. Okay, then I'll see. If any of you are familiar with healthcare system or healthcare provision, you may know that there are basically three different approaches that have been adapted in different countries throughout the world. Okay, the first one is a market-oriented approach, which emphasizes like the government in the healthcare sector, that the government doesn't really have a strong role in this sector. The market dominates everything. Let the market decide what the healthcare sector will function. This approach has been adopted by United Kingdom in the early 1980s, and then the Sweden government then tried to follow the example of the United Kingdom in the early 1980s. But evidence showed that both of the two countries, the reform hadn't been really successful. Then the second one is the state-dominated approach, which is okay, the market doesn't do a lot of things. The state will help the market to do everything. The state will do everything. This approach has been adopted by most Scandinavian countries, like the Northern European country, right? But the problem is the healthcare sector has been a very heavy financial burden to the government. The government cannot afford it, or it is very difficult for them to sustain such a to afford such a very heavy financial burden in the future. So there is one approach which is an integrated approach. This is approach like the government were responsible for one of the healthcare spending, and the individual were responsible for part of the healthcare spending. This is a hybrid model which has been adopted in Japan, I think in Singapore, and this is basically the theoretical background. Okay, I will take China as an example. Why? Because China is very interesting. From it has been experienced the state-dominated approach and the market approach. The first period from 1949 to 1978, it is more like a state-dominated approach. The government will provide everything. And the second period, which is from 1978 to 1996, is like the government fight that the government cannot afford the healthcare sector anymore. So it tried to graduate to let the hospital be responsible to their own profit and loss. From this period, the government gradually decreased the financial subsidy to the healthcare sector. And there are several very small healthcare reforms in this period. And the third period is from 1996 to present, which is totally a market-oriented approach. The government is cutting a lot of financial support to the healthcare sector. And so how do hospitals survive? Okay, the government said, I don't give you money, but I will give you policy. Like, you don't have money from me, but you can charge money from the patients, okay? This is history. So what happened after all these things, after all these 50 years? Here I introduce you a multi-level analysis. Okay, a multi-level analysis of China's healthcare provision. Okay, there is basically three level things. In the national level, what we see from the market-oriented medical care reform, the first thing is the government support is decreased. The government support, and we see the national health expenditure is decreased. In 1982, it's around 40%. In 1992, it's around 21%, and in 2002, it's only 16%. Besides this, there is another thing: is the problem of overlap and growing duplication of medical services. According to the World Bank, in 1993, 3/4 of the China's healthcare spending went to pay for inpatient and outpatient hospital care, and 60% of that spending goes into the pharmaceuticals, while the number for most low-income countries, because China is still regarded as a low-income country, right, is 52%. We are 60%. The average is 52%. What about those developed world? The average spending on drugs in OECD countries is only 14%, 114. Okay. So this is national level. So what happened in the hospital level? Okay. The national level, the policy is pushing the hospital, right? So what happened in hospital level is like one is the duplication of the facilities. From 1985 to 1989, 80% of healthcare investment went into hospital construction and equipment. Less than 10% supported public healthcare and high priority basic clinic services.
Now we have to really.
Okay. And then there's the individual level. I will finish in 1 minute.
Yes,
okay.
Please.
Okay. The individual level is a very big distortion from these two levels pushing the individual level. It's like the over-prescription practice in China. It's like, the pharmaceutical companies try to bribe a doctor to ask them to prescribe more medications to the patient. But the government cannot do anything about it. It's not that legal, but cannot do anything about it. Why? Because the government doesn't give enough money to the hospital. If this practice doesn't go in, the hospital cannot survive. Right.